loud. Are we recording? It did not give me a notification if we're recording, so hopefully we are. Anyways, this is episode 2, season 2. Before we get going, let me get all my shit put in order. I got myself here. I got my screen here. I got my cue cards here of what we're going to discuss. I did notice last time I'm still learning. And if you hear my fan, I'm sorry. It's just a little bit warm in the office today. In my office. Ooh. Uh, but last week, or was it last week? It was the week before. I'm not too sure. I did the Zoom thing, and I realized that what I was seeing wasn't what was being recorded. So when I share my screen, I got to remind myself after I'm done sharing my screen, put myself back on the screen so it's a little bit bigger. Um, I will work on that, and if it becomes an issue where I'm like, this is you're just looking at a blank screen, then so be it. But I think we're okay. I'm still trying to get used to looking up versus looking down, which is at myself to make sure I look beautiful, which I don't know why I need to look because I'm always beautiful. Anyways, all right, let's get right into today's episode. Today's episode, we're going to talk about BAH, okay? And we're basically going to say, we're going to look at what can BAH get you in El Paso? And I have a few screens up and ready to rock and roll. Actually, let me get in here and turn off. Get out of these screens. I don't want to share, you know what I mean? All right. There you go. So I have a few I've pulled up the BAH in El Paso. But before we do that, I kind of just want to explain. So we're going to talk about BAH. And what that means. So, if for those of you who are listening to this podcast and you're not military or familiar with military, this may not be relevant for you. But if you know someone that is uh, military here in El Paso or PCS-ing to El Paso or coming to El Paso, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is synonymous across the country with anybody military that's moving with BAH. It applies to El Paso because it's Fort Bliss, but it can apply to any post, any installation, military style, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Chair Force, Sky Force, whatever, Space Force, Coast Guard, whoever can qualify for a VA loan and can get a BAH, gets BAH. This is relevant for them. But we are going to kind of focus in on El Paso, and we're going to kind of compare rental versus buying and let you decide what's best for you because honestly, it just doesn't matter to me. I'm here to give you all the information, let you make the best decision you could possibly make. So I said all that to say this. The title of this episode is Buying with BAH, Military Home Buying in El Paso. Um, I do have a script. I'm probably not going to stick to it, but that's okay. When do I ever stick to a script, right? Anyways, so what is BAH? It's Basic Allowance for Housing. So it's basically what the military says, hey, you're going to this installation and it's going to cost this amount of money, or this is the basic allowance that we believe will pay for your rent or your mortgage. What you do with that money is up to you. You can go rent, you can go buy, you could, you know, do nothing, live in your car. I don't think the military would be appreciative of that, but so forth and so forth. It is a monthly allowance that they give strictly for your basic allowance or your home allowance. Okay, El Paso's BAH is relatively pretty good for the market. I'm gonna pan over here. So we have E1 to E9, and that will range from 1674 or 1647. I'm sorry, 1647 all the way up to 2112 monthly, and that's with dependents. Without, it's 1275 to 1881. So we're kind of looking in at that one, and then we're gonna also look at officers, which is those are the two main ones there. You also have your warrant and things like that. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen if I can remember how to do this. I got to make this a little bit bigger. Oh my gosh. There we go. We're going to share the screen. There it is. Okay. I was confused as hell just then. All right. We're going to share our screen. Please tell me you can see it. I hope that you can. please let me know. It doesn't matter. I won't know until I read the comments. But in the screen, you can kind of see we are right here. Fort Bliss, Texas, 2025 BAH rates, 2025 enlisted rates, and here it goes. Boom. Warrant rates, officer rates. And then you also have some little things like this, BAH rates and with dependents, non-dependents. If you're in the charts, good for you. Here's one for you. But this is kind of what we're looking at. I want to try and show you this right here, right? Because yes, this would be nice, but we're gonna basically be, um, it, you know, we're gonna be from 1647 up to 22. That's kind of our bread and butter range, right? Because we're gonna be E1s all the way to O3s, O4s, O5s, O6, O7s. Yes, you count too, but this is more of an educational video for our um, non-commissioned officers and our lower officers, our lower ranking officers. Okay, give me a second. All right. Anyways, so there we go. Now, what you can say, well, Erica, how do you know? How can we look at this number and say, well, what as an E5, I don't want to spend a penny over my BAH on my mortgage to include insurance, taxes, and my principal. And I'm an E5, I make 1773 a month. I have some dependents, so this may go up if you have multiple dependents, but I don't think it does. I think that's just a standard. I don't know. It's been a long time for me. So we make 1773. I'm going to look at this E5 1773, okay? Now I have this beautiful little app that I can come in here and I can go, okay, we got a VA loan, the home price, let's say 200,000. Let's see what that looks like. Obviously, we don't have a down payment. What is our interest rate? Some lenders can get you a 5.8 right now, so we'll just say 5.8. Buyer's broker fees, we don't need to get into that. That's a conversation for a different day. Miscellaneous, um, hazard insurance, taxes. So I'm going to keep the hazard insurance as 0.5. Taxes, I'm going to kind of go on the high end and say 7,000 because they are actively going up. And I'm going to say we're going to close not May, but let's say we close June 13th. This little itemized calculator will then do all the math for me because, again, public education, and it will tell me, please, we're not concerned with this bring to close because this is me not negotiating anything. So try to take that bring to close out of the picture. We're only focusing on this monthly payment, okay? This bring to close is my job to get it as close to zero, if not zero, as possible. Because I can also just simply do this, right? I'm going to get the seller to pay my 3%. And now we went down to 7, and then I'm also going to get the seller, maybe I get some seller's concession of 3%. Oop. See, it always does this. Yes, continue. Yes, continue. See, so if I say, oh, the seller's paying you 3% and your buyer's broker, blah blah blah, then this bring to close goes way down. But again, we're not worried about that bring to close right now. It's not important. This is a conversation for another day if we're serious about buying. This is the number we're looking at. So for a $200,000 home here in El Paso with a 5.8 interest rate for 30 years with 5.5% yearly hazard insurance, your insurance, and taxes of $7,000 yearly, which is about average here in El Paso, gotta love it. You're looking at 1865. So then we can go back here and go, well, our BAH was 1773, and you said not a penny over. Now, some realtors may say, hey, that's only $100 more. I'm just going to tell you, okay, at that point, we probably need to keep all the things the way it is and go 190, and then we're going to compute, and then that should give us the number we're looking for. Almost. So 185. We're going to compute 1769. So I think that was it, right? Yep, 1769. So now we know our bread and butter is right here at 185, 5.8 interest rate, 30 years, insurance, taxes, all those numbers. Now we also know if we get lucky and we find a house that has $5,000 in taxes yearly, we can go up to probably 190 and it would still be in our budget. Compute. We are well within our budget at 5,000. So we can probably get all the way up. Maybe let's see what 200,000 looks like. Compute. Hopefully you guys are finding this informational. There you go. So we can actually go just a little bit, a smidge above 200,000 if we can find a house that has property taxes of $5,000. Realistically, $5,000 in property taxes here in El Paso is probably not going to happen, but you never know. You may get lucky. And we can also go to just do the whole kit and caboodle, right? Oh, hopefully you guys, you're not going to see that. Let's see. We're going to log on to this, or I think we are. Give it a second. Circle of death. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to go here to flex, and I'm going to say we're going to look for houses. We're going to do a quick search. I'm not going to give any information that you guys cannot find for yourself, but I am going to keep this price point at our max of 205 because that's probably, and no, let's just do 200,000. We don't really care, but we do want, let's just say you wanted a 3-bedroom, a standard home here in El Paso, 2 baths, and boom. Nope, not add field. 195 homes available, right? Did we do that right? Because that seems like a lot. 200,000, 3-bedroom, 2 bath. Excuse me. Let's do 1,300 square feet and 2-car garage, double attached. I always do that. Now that's a little bit more realistic. There's 11 homes that kind of fit this price point. And you can start looking at these homes and saying, I like it, I don't like it, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense, right? We're not going to go into that. There's no reason to do that right now. But we are going to say, look, here's some houses that we could afford or we can buy for under 200,000. All right. So we're going to get out of that. And that was a quick, like really fast, hey, here is the overview. We're going to stop sharing. There we go. All right. And so that's a quick overview of everything, of how, as a realtor, when you say, hey, I'm an E5, I make $1,773 a month in BAH, and I want to stay as close to, or if I can, below that. That's how I go through that process, right? I say, okay, 1773, let's do the math. Here's a $200,000 home at this rate, at this taxes, at this insurance, all this stuff. We combined it. What are we looking at? This is how much this house would cost us. Now let's go find a house that fits this criteria. If you don't like it, then you don't like it, and there's nothing I can really do about it at that time. I can't make prices go down. I will tell you we can negotiate some things. Maybe you like a house that's $210,000 and you're like, but it's $10,000 out of my budget and that's going to put me in the 1,800s a month. Then you go, oh, well, maybe we can negotiate. It's been on the market for a little while. But at that point, that's a whole different conversation that we're not having today. Today, we're having the discussion of, hey, I have BAH. I want to be a homeowner, but I understand that my BAH is not probably going to be enough to give me the house that I really, really want. So can I rent? And the truth of the matter is, absolutely, you can rent. And I don't know if I'm allowed to pull up rentals and kind of compare and contrast and show you, okay, if you're renting, this is what it's going to look like. And if you're buying, this is what it's going to look like, because I don't want to offend any realtor or property manager out there. So I'm not going to bring 2 houses, one's rental, one's buying, and compare them, because I don't want to do that to any realtor, just like I wouldn't want a realtor to do that to me. But what I can tell you is that as your realtor, me, when you sit down with me, not in front of a camera, we are going to do that. We are going to compare a $2,000 a month rental and a $2,000 a month property, and we're going to put them side by side, and we're going to say, which one do you want to buy, or which one do you want to do, and what does this give you versus this, and so forth and so forth. And all good realtors out there should be doing that, because at the end of the day, it's not about padding my pocket. It's not about, I want you to buy a home. Obviously I do. I think everybody should buy a home, but I also understand that one size fits all is not what's best for everybody. And we have to make sure your situation is what's best for you and your family. And if you want to stay to that 1775 and you don't want to go penny over it, and you're looking at these homes and you go, you know what, it doesn't have refrigerated air, I don't really like the floors, it kind of has a funky smell, all those things, and you go, but I can go and rent this house over here for 1770 and I like it, it's good, yes, it's not mine, but I can rent it for the next 2 to 3 years and I'm happy, then homie, let's do it. And that's really what this podcast is all about, I guess, is just to say, don't feel pressured one way or the other. You are going to run into some professionals, and I use that term very loosely, that is going to try and sway you in one direction or the other. That is not our job. Our job is to put the information in front of you and say, here's apples, here's oranges. They compare, but they're totally different. And it all depends on what your finish line looks like. Does your finish line look like, I love El Paso, I want to stay here for the next 20 years or the next 5 years or the next 10 years, and I don't want to rent? Then yes, okay, buying makes sense. Or if it's, hey, I'm only here for a year, year and a half, 2 years, and I'm not really looking at my future as an investment. I'm just kind of like, let me get the hell out of El Paso. I don't really like Fort Bliss, blah, blah, blah. Then probably buying a home is not for you. And that's how you have to see real estate. If you're seeing it from the eyes of an investor, then it makes sense. But if you're seeing it from the eyes of, I'm just passing through, and really and truthfully, I'm only here for 2 years and I don't think I ever want to come back, and I don't really want to have my portfolio here in El Paso, then why, let's go find you a rental. That just kind of went off the deep end there, and I'm so sorry, but that's really, we'll have that conversation when you're sitting down with me. We'll talk about just the truth. Buying smart in El Paso, you know, I'm going to read off here. So, oh, no, I didn't mean, I almost ended the meeting. So, buying a house with your BEH and under your BH is almost impossible. Just like renting a home that's going to fit your criteria at your BAH or under your BAH is almost impossible. And from my understanding, on post housing is months. You're waiting for months. So really and truthfully, you're going to have a conversation with your family to say what is best for us, what is best for business, I guess is the best way to say it. We watch the WWE in my family, and so Paul Heyman, I, I'm gonna. Anyways, Paul Heyman is always about saying what's best for business, and so is Triple H, or Paul Lezek. I think that's how his real name is, saying what's best for business. And I want you to say the same thing for yourself. What is best for business? Business is you. Business is your family, and you have to make a decision that's what's best for business and what's best for your family. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. They think business is here and family is here, and they have to stay different. You should always be thinking of your family as a business, because your family should be making the right decisions for your future. And if you're just thinking, "Oh, it's my family and it is what it is and it's no big deal," and then that doesn't make sense. But when you're thinking about something as a business, you're not thinking of today. You're thinking of 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, 10 months down the road, 15 years down the road. What is this going to look like for my business? So that's what we're looking at here. Um, all right. Anyways, so let's kind of veer off into what is a VA loan, and why does this make a little bit more sense? Well, VA loan, down payment, a little bit lower interest rate in current market, no PMI, things like that. So there are good advantages, and we're not going to dive deep into that today. We're just going to talk about the VA loan is there. It's meant for you to use it. Please use it at some point in your life. You deserve it. You've earned it. Make it happen. Rental is always going to be there. It's always, always, always an option. It's always something you can do. There's a million rentals on the market, just like there's a million listings on the market. It's all about what's best for you and what's best for your business family. Excuse me. All right. Last little thing, we're going to talk pro tips from a seasoned. I don't like that word. You know what? I don't like that word seasoned. I'm not seasoned. I'm young. Okay. Seasoned screams I'm old. I'm young. I'm I'm battle tested for sure. For sure. I'm battle tested, but I ain't seasoned. Okay. I am battle tested. um, Very important if we do want to go buy a house and we are going to use our VA, who you who you use is very important. Don't fall for those we're the only VA lender in the world. That's false. Every lender, every bank, every mortgage company has the potential to give you a VA loan. It is not just Veterans United. It is not just USAA. It is not just Navy Federal. That is a misconception. VA loans are national. Anywhere, any bank, any mortgage can give you a VA loan. And a lot of times, I'm going to be very careful. If you go local, um, or like in like a branch sort of type, you're going to get lower closing costs and you're going to get a better rate. You heard it here first, folks. Don't fall schemes to, hey, my realtor told me to use this lender, this lender, this lender, this lender. Or, hey, I went online and I almost said the name, told me they're the only person that does VA lending. Incorrect, inaccurate, and they should be ashamed of themselves. They are not the only people that do VA lending. In fact, most of the people who say I'm the only one who's doing VA lending are going to cost you anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 to close a deal. When you can go and find another lender that will be anywhere from 5 to 10. 10 on the high side. Listen, I ain't saying shit, but I am saying shit. Make sure you're doing your due diligence, whether you use me or you use another realtor. Don't fall for the misconception of, hey, this person or this place only does VA loans, and they're the only people that can do them. The truth is, 9 times out of 10, those companies, they only produce VA loans, and that's how they're wording it. But they're getting you confused and making you think that they're the only ones that can do them. And that's not the case. They only do it because they're only licensed to do. Anyways, I'm going to get off my horse about that. And we're just going to kind of roll it back. And we're just going to touch back on everything and kind of say, that's the end of this conversation. I hope this helps somebody. What I've learned in my life, I'm 36, closer to 37, and I bought my first home when I was 30. I look back on my military career. I was at Fort Seal for basic, Fort Gordon for AIT, Fort Campbell for my first duty station, and then Fort Bliss for my second duty station. That was 4 places. Now, obviously, the first 2, I really couldn't have bought a home. But looking back, I really wish that at Fort Bliss or Fort Campbell, as a young private, knowing that I was in a good financial situation and that I could have afforded one, I do wish that I would have started a portfolio. I do wish, looking back, um, I would have done that. I would have said, hey, you know what? This is a sacrifice I'm going to make for me, because at that time I didn't have BAH, but I could have still afforded it because I didn't have all these bills, or I was a young kid that all I had was a car note, and so I could have, look, I'm not going to go back on this, but I am going to say, just because it, no matter what rank you are in the United States military, you should be a homeowner. If you're living in the barracks and you're like, hey, I don't have any bills, I don't have all this stuff, I don't got all this stuff, I don't know what I'm doing with my money, invest it in something. Invest it in something. Grow your wealth, and this is going on a totally different fucking path, and I'm so sorry. But you guys already know that I'm a component, like I'm a big believer in invest in yourself, invest in your future. So I'm going to go on this rant just for a few seconds and then I'm going to wrap it up. No matter your rank, no matter how long you've been in the military, I mean, I guess it does matter because you need a little bit of time and service to qualify for your VA. But the second you get that time and service to qualify for your VA, my recommendation to you is start investing, whether it be in real estate, whether it be in stocks, whether it be in Pokemon cards that are multiple $1 million cards at this point. Obviously, you can't afford that, but you get what I'm saying. Find an investment that you're happy with and that you can say, hey, this is a hobby that I want to grow. This is a portfolio that I want to build. And the first one's always the toughest because you feel it's like not obtainable. I can't get that. I can't do that. There's no way 21-year-old me can afford a house, and I'm living in the barracks. And I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. Have you ever thought about you could buy a home and rent out rooms? I'm living in one room, obviously the master, because I'm paying for it. And then I'm going to have my buddies come and live with me for $200 a month, $300 a month. I'm telling you right now, no matter your age, I hope you're watching this, and I hope you go, oh shit, I could be worth X amount of money. Because the second you sign on that dotted line, you are now increased your personal value by that amount. Yes, it's debt. Yes, it's money that you gotta pay, but it's investment. Because unlike buying a new sports car that's gonna cost you $60,000 at a 27.7 interest rate, and unlike doing that, you are going to get this money back. And as long as you're looking at an investment that makes sense for you, right? So stocks are, a gamble. Real estate is less of a gamble because you're probably going to get an investment on that money. But if you're I don't want to get too far into this. Okay. I'm just going to leave it at this. No matter your age, no matter your rank, I want you to consider what it would be like to be a homeowner, to start a portfolio, to think about your future and say, I want, before I'm 30, imagine, stop what you're doing. Imagine yourself right now, if at 21 years old or 19 or at 20, because some of us joined at 17, I didn't, but some people joined at 17. So let's say you're 20 years old, you're buying your first home. Now, fast forward 10 years, you're 30, you're at your second or third duty station, and you're at your third investment home. And now we have what we call passive income. I'm just going to leave it at that. However, you got to be smart with your money. You can't be acting a fool. You got to grow up really fast if you're going to become an investor like that. And that's a totally different ballgame, and we don't need to get into that. This was just about BAH. If you want to buy a home and you're stressed and you're worried that the BAH is not going to cover it, 50% of the time you're right, 50% of the time you're wrong. Depends on what you're looking for. Depends on how you want to move forward with your money. But now you know, if you don't want to spend over $1,773 here in El Paso, your budget is $200,000. That's your budget. $200,000. It's gonna keep you right around that 1773. If you don't want to spend anything over $2,000 a month, your budget's like 220. There it is. And we can go over that a little bit more if that's something you guys want to do. We can talk about that. But you already know my bread and butter is VA. Oop, it timed out. I think I there we go. You already know. You already know my bread and butter is the VA. And I love VA loans. I have one of my own. I've bought multiple homes with my VA. And I want you to be able to do it too. So that is what I want you to take away from this. It is possible. It is relevant. It is something you can do. Whether or not your BAH will cover it 100% or cover 90% or cover 80%, that is something we need to sit down and talk about. If it doesn't work for you and that number does not pan out, there is always rental market. But my advice is try to buy first, and then if it doesn't work, then you go to rental. Try to make yourself an investor. Try to make yourself a little portfolio here in El Paso. If those numbers you don't like them, then we can go over to rental. That's the gist of this conversation. No matter what your rank is, no matter where you're at in life, our first obligation should be to try and buy a home. And then if the numbers don't match, the numbers don't look good, and it just doesn't work out, then we move over to rental because it's going to take about the same process and the same time anyways. Okay. Anyways, if you like this channel, make sure you subscribed on YouTube. We're on TikTok. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Homes by Harshaw on all platforms. LinkedIn. All those wonderful things. I want to thank you guys for all the support. It means the world to me. I'm going to try and get back into this. A little recap on life. I just finished college. I we'll find out in a week and a half if I'm getting my degree, which I know I am, but you know, nothing's official till it's official. So once I have my degree in hand, I'll be excited. We're going to put it right here. We're going to get a nice frame and put it like right here. And that's just going to sit there and stare at us every single time we do this podcast. Anyways, that's the most important accomplishment I think I'll ever do. I probably never will use my marketing degree um, outside of my own business, but I have it. And that's a really cool freaking feeling. I have my digital marketing degree, hopefully. Give it to me, Park, please. Um, but it's a cool feeling. It's the biggest accomplishment I think I will ever do for myself outside of my personal life. So it's my biggest accomplishment because it's something I never thought I would accomplish. It's something I never thought I would do. I've always been told I'm terrible at school. I've always been told I'm terrible at learning. Uh, this is just proof that that is not the case. I just had terrible teachers. I don't care if you get mad about that. Who gives a shit? But I've maintained 3.7 and better my entire college career, and I just took the hardest class of my degree program and the hardest teacher of my degree program. That's a fact. You can check it. And I made a 98 in that class, one of her highest ever grades. So I'm very proud of myself. I'm very proud of my education that I'm getting, I've gotten. And you never know. Maybe I will use it. You guys looking for a digital marketer? You know, I love my gadgets. You know, I love all that stuff. So if you want to hire me as a digital marketer, you probably can't afford me. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Anyways, you guys have a good one. We will see you. And I'm going to say, how do I get this shit to turn off? There it is. Have a good one. Remember, more knowledge today is more power for tomorrow. Have a good day. Have a great week and keep grinding.